5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to your Media Mosh Podcast. I'm your host, Shane Beauregard, coming out to you with all your news, reviews, and previews I want to watch on your streaming services, your television, and your local theater. I hope everyone's had a great week coming at you Sunday night, August the 11th. And I just want to thank everyone who tuned in last night to my second Facebook Live episode. So if you did listen last night, this is pretty much going to be a repeat of what you saw live. And you're probably wondering, why am I re-recording another episode? It's easier to edit this way, trust me. The live shows are kind of a pain in the you-know-what to edit. So thank you again for everyone who did tune in. I will put out more notice next time I go live. And I'm still trying to play with the whole Facebook camera issue. So anyway, let's just roll on. Let's get into some news. You have the Game of Thrones creators signing a new Netflix deal, which is pretty smart for them. Even though they are in hiding right now, and they should be in hiding for that disaster of season 8 of Game of Thrones. And so who knows if they're going to do a show or movie. They pretty have an open table with Netflix, so they haven't leaked anything about what they're working on, but that's where their next projects will land, is Netflix. You also have Event Horizon, a series that's being developed for Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen Event Horizon, it was a really underrated movie. Sci-fi horror genre with Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne. If you've never seen that, go give that a check. James Wan is creating an original horror movie, so this isn't a remake or rehash. And he stresses it's going to use a lot of practical effects, which is pretty cool. So if you're a horror fan, and James Wan, to me, as far as a director goes, he doesn't have a strike on his record. So I'm excited about this. I guess the bigger news is the movie The Hunt, which I was looking forward to, with Betty Gilpin and Hilary Swank, is now canceled. And I don't mean to laugh. It's canceled, and I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day. I'm hoping at least maybe a year or two they can put it out so at least we can rent it. But this is coming off the back-to-back El Paso and Ohio incidents, the mass shooting, so it kind of makes sense to cancel this movie. But unfortunately, I would have liked to seen Betty Gilpin on the big screen. Sometimes I have to scratch my head at what fucking Netflix does and who they decide to give money to make movies. Can we stop? Please stop giving Marlon Wayans money to make movies and shows. If you've seen his latest trailer for Netflix, it's called Sextuplets, and it looks so bad. Not even it's so bad it's good. It looks fucking terrible. He's pulling an Eddie Murphy, where Eddie Murphy played every character in the Clumps. Well, that's what Marlon Wayans is doing. He's playing all 6 of his siblings, and they are annoying, and they're not funny. And this movie looks like a fucking train wreck. And it just pisses me off that Netflix is giving this guy money to do these type of movies. Marlon Wayans always reminded me about that kid in class, and everyone knew this kid in high school that thought he was so goddamn funny all the time. Like, spits out 1,000 jokes a day, and maybe a handful will land. And that just encourages him to do more. The guy's, I'm sorry, I don't mean to crap on someone's career, but he's just not funny. There hasn't been a good Wayans brother since Damon Wayans back in the early to mid 90s. So fucking Netflix sometimes, I tell you. Speaking on that, I saw the trailer for the new Dolomite movie, and I totally forgot that was being made. And it's actually a Netflix movie, and it has Eddie Murphy, and it actually looks good. I saw the trailer today, and it looks like the best thing he's done in years. I can't name the last really good Eddie Murphy movie, so go check that trailer out. Christmas Chronicles 2 is being developed right now. The first movie was a solid holiday movie, and you had Kurt Russell playing Santa, which was the best part of the movie. Part 2 is being directed by Chris Columbus, who directed one of the Harry Potter movies. And Harry Potter is one of the franchises I've never seen a movie. I've never seen a Harry Potter movie, which I know that's strange, but I kind of missed that whole Harry Potter boat. Coming out on the Paramount, you have I Am Patrick Swayze, the biography, which I am going to watch. It does look like it's going to tug on your heartstrings a little bit. I would like to get the backstory and hear some of the stories from his friends like Rob Lowe and most of the Brat Pack about Patrick Swayze. So again, that's the 17th on Paramount Channel. Also on the Sci-Fi Channel, you have, I think it's Zombie Tidal Wave or something. And yes, Ian Ziering is signed up for it. Listen, Sharknado was a fun concept, the first two movies. And then it just became what it was. I think there was 5 of them. And they got increasingly less bad to watch. So bad it's good, like the first 2 were. I don't know. I saw the trailer for this thing. I'm going to attempt to watch it. But, oh, man, this looks how it sounds. It just not good. So on Netflix, coming out this week on the 16th, you have Mindhunter Season 2, which is a really solid show on Netflix. One of their better, I would say, probably one of their top tier shows. And if you're a Invader Zim fan, you get Invader Zim Enter the Florpus, which was a great Nickelodeon cartoon about 10-15 years ago. And you have the aforementioned Sextuplets with Marlon Wayans coming out. AMC tomorrow night, August the 12th, you have The Terror, the anthology horror show. I'm going to give that a watch sometime this week. Now, let's get into the box office. Coming in at number 5, bringing in $11 million, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Third week in release, bringing its total to $100 million. Number 4 is the newly opened Dora movie, which I was hoping that my daughter would pick for daddy-daughter date, and she did not. I had to go to a trampoline park. And sidebar here, I realized there's being in shape, and then there's being in trampoline shape. I was bouncing around for maybe 6 minutes before I looked up at the clock. My damn calves were burning. My heart rate's in the 140s. And my kid, who's pretty at this stage in her careers, is in her inactive mode where she likes to be on her tablets and stuff. She did the whole hour, and she could have done more. I was done in 20 minutes. Ridiculous. Where was I? Dora, bringing in $17 million in its first week. You have Lion King bringing in $20 million. That brings its 3-week total to $473 million. Fucking killing it. Number 2 is Scary Stories, bringing in $20 million. And number 1 is Hobbs and Shaw, bringing in $25 million, which brings its 2-week total to 105. I would have to say it's underperforming with the budget and whatever they put out for marketing. That's a pretty weak 2-week total. But so pretty evenly dispersed week, I'd have to say, at the movies. Next week, you do have a plethora of movies coming out. You have Where'd You Go, Bernadette? I forgot the lead in that. Billy Crudup's in that movie. You have The Good Boys, which is my pick of the week, which is sitting at 80% of Rotten Tomato right now. You have Angry Birds 2, which is actually sitting at 83% of Rotten Tomato. You have 47 Meters Down, the sequel, which hasn't gotten any reviews yet. And then you have Blinded by the Lights, the true story about this Indian kid who got inspired by listening to Bruce Springsteen, which is sitting at 92%. So there is a lot coming out next week. I'm really going to hold out hope that the Peanut Butter Falcon comes to Greensboro next week. I'm not going to hold my breath. So, then that follows, the Walton Goggins movie is playing in one theater here, and I think that is going to be my pick of the week. I should have watched it this past weekend instead of The Kitchen, and I'll get into that review in just a little bit. Outside of that, I try to watch the Katie Sackhoff show Afterlife, and I'm a huge Katie Sackhoff fan for the obvious reasons. And right now that show is sitting at 7% of Rotten Tomato, and it deserves it. It just looks like a poorly produced sci-fi original movie. The special effects are really bad. The cast, the acting is just really bad. So I give a show 3 episodes. I pulled the plug on this one after 2. Katie Sackhoff was not enough for me to keep me engaged in this show. I needed a little bit more than that. And that's saying a lot, because I technically probably have watched worse, but this one just did not hold my attention at all. However, I did finish Glow Season 3. So that's in at 85% Rotten Tomato. And I will say, this isn't going to be the last season, the way they ended this season. I'm actually kind of impressed that they still keep things fresh, meaning the concept, the ladies wrestling fresh after 3 seasons. It didn't feel, I thought maybe it'd run out of some steam, or just hit some flat notes or get a little stale. They did a great job this season of balancing out some of the lesser known characters from the first 2 seasons. They kind of gave them more shine, and we explored their lives a little bit, which was interesting. So even though Mark Maron was born to play his role as Sam in this show, his story was good, but in the middle of this series, I was like, hey, they're not really talking about him too much. He kind of has his daughter comes back into town, and she has a script that she's trying to sell, and he helps her with that. So it's really father-daughter bonding time. And they do tackle some real issues that were going on around the time. The first episode has the Challenger mission that went wrong. It had the fallout from that. Then you got into the whole AIDS and gay issue and people being homophobic. It did a good job handling that. And that was, if you look back at that time, it was weird. I mean, you literally thought if you were gay, you're going to die. Or if someone had AIDS and you touched them, you're going to die. It just kind of blows my mind that's how people thought. So it did a really good job. I like the direction it went. You have you have Gina Davis in this season. And really it's about their show getting extended. They're supposed to be there 3 months in Vegas, and they got picked up for the rest of the year. So they're going to be there for 9 months. So it was really adjusting to the day in and day out grind of what they go through. But again, they kept it fresh. I loved this season, probably a little more than the last season. Still had its humor, but just the more depth of characters they put a spotlight on was really good. And again, I liked the last episode. I don't know how much more they can squeeze out of this. I'm assuming, depending on where they're going, the 4th season and maybe the 5th. So I'll keep you posted. But big thumbs up for me on Glow Season 3. I'm going to go a little higher than the critics. I'm going to give Season 3 a 4.0 out of 5 for Season 3 of Glow. Go check that out on Netflix right now. One of my clients asked me to rank the Tarantino movies, and since I talked about this a lot on the live show, I'm not going to bore you with the spoilers of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I liked it more than most people. I didn't love it. I thought Pitt was a little better than DiCaprio. It did go on a little bit too long. So that's all I'll say. And I loved the ending of the movie. I didn't even mind the Bruce Lee stuff because he's getting a lot of shit for that. But I didn't mind it at all. It just showed the badassery of the Brad Pitt character. He's kind of an unknown. And I just liked the scene. So I didn't get all the Bruce Lee backlash. It's a movie, for God's sake. So here is where I rank Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Of course, my top 5 will never change. It's Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill 1 and 2, Inglourious Bastards, and then Reservoir Dogs. Now, what I think is going to pretty much ask me in a different year or different month, and I might change my order. That's how close these second tier movies are. For me, I go Django Unchained, and I recently rewatched this movie, and I did appreciate it a little bit more. Jackie Brown, which I think is a very underrated Tarantino film, and you have a great performance by Pam Grier. That comes in at number 7. And then I slide in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And again, I may see this movie next year, and I may jump it up to where Django is. Who knows? So that's where that sits. And then you have Death Proof. And then I think this will forever be on the bottom of my list. You have The Hateful Eight, which I haven't gone back to Netflix and watched he broke it up into a 4-part miniseries, essentially. I have not gone back to try to watch it. I might do that to see if I change my perspective just a little bit. But in the end, I don't see it moving anywhere. So, again, number 6 is Django. 7 is Jackie Brown. 8 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 9, Death Proof. And 10, Hateful Eight. And that is all the Tarantino talk I'll give you. Let's move on to the main event, The Kitchen. I was actually looking forward to this movie. I saw the trailer. I do I shouldn't say Melissa McCarthy's hit or miss with me. I like one of her movies and she puts out a real dud. So back and forth there. And I do like Elizabeth Moss, Tiffany Haddish for the most part. So this movie is sitting at 21% critic score and 73% audience score. And I knew the critic score before I went into this movie. I was like, it can't be that bad. It's based on the DC Vertigo comic, and all I'll say is I hope the comic is better than the movie. This is probably the worst movie I've seen in the theaters all year, and it's not even close. You have 3 good performances here. The 3 leading ladies did a great job, but unfortunately, they weren't given anything to work off of. The screenplay, the writing was really bad. And you have a first-time director here, Andrea Berloff, who has written some good screenplays. She did Straight Outta Compton, World Trade Center, and Bloodfather with Mel Gibson. Pretty solid films, and this is her directorial debut. And I didn't really have a problem with the tone of the movie or the way it was shot. It was okay. It takes place in 1978 Hell's Kitchen, and you get a sense that it's just, dirty, garbage everywhere. And you have these 3 wives who are married to people in the mob, an Irish mob in Hell's Kitchen. And they get pinched for a robbery. They go away for 3 years. These 3 women decide to step up and help their situation out because the family's supposed to take care of them while their husbands are in prison, and they don't pay them enough and they can't survive. So they decide to take on some of the collections under the mob boss's nose, whose character's name is Jackie Jr. And this is where the problem begins with this movie, because they paint these female characters as silent, weak, and kind of in the corner. One of them's shy. Elizabeth Moss's character is physically beat by her husband, and they go from that character to all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just collecting for the mob, and people actually are listening to them, and it snowballs from there, because I just felt like there's no transition or no learning curve here. They just jumped right into it. As their business is building, they do come in conflict with Jackie Jr. Then I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, I am sorry. Domhnall Gleeson, who shows up, who was a hitman or an assassin for the mob, and he decides to help these women out because he's in love with Elizabeth Moss's character, and he essentially shows them how to kill and dispose of bodies, which Elizabeth Moss has a taken and a liking to. So that's your love story there. And then as the tension is kind of building in this, it becomes too cartoony. It's none of these women have any depth to their characters whatsoever. You barely believe in their friendship. They don't build upon that in this movie, which they should have. Because when things start falling apart, you get a sense that Tiffany Haddish's character is doing some stuff on the side, which does come to light later in the movie. But it made no sense. You just don't believe the friendship of these women, and you're supposed to. And that's where the problem is. Lack of depth. So in the end, when you finally get to the third act, I just sat there, I'm like, really? I don't want to spoil anything. That's why I'm trying so hard to avoid it. I should, because it's such a shitty movie. And then the way it resolved itself was just laughable. So again, they took these characters and just made them cartoony, not believable. I didn't believe these women were tough guys. This is not a woman empowerment movie, as it may come off as, because they're not believable. And if you just wanted to make a film that shows that women can kill guys for no apparent reason, sure, you did your job. But yeah, that's all I have to say about The Kitchen. Unfortunately, The Kitchen is closed. I would not recommend watching this on Netflix, Amazon Prime, or even if it was on your cable TV one Saturday. History is being made here with this review. I don't think I've ever given a movie anything less than a 2.0. Well, there's a first time for everything. The Kitchen gets a 1.5 out of 5, and it's lucky to be sitting at 1.5. It only has the 0.5 because of the performances by Moss and McCarthy and Haddish. Specifically, Moss was probably and McCarthy did a really good job, but specifically Elizabeth Moss had the best performance in this movie. So, yeah, what a dud. So hopefully next weekend will be a better week at the movies. And that's it, folks. That's all I have. Go to my Facebook page, Media Mosh. Go to my Twitter handle, @ShaneMediaMosh. And go to my Instagram page. But more importantly, go to the Apple Podcast Store, download me, click that 5-star review, and then share me with your friends. And again, I appreciate everyone who did participate in the live show. I'm hoping to pick up some more steam on that as more time goes on. And then go check out Mr. Argue Myself on the Facebooks, the Instagrams, and the Twitter. He has 3 different platforms for 3 different types of content. I hope everyone has a great week. Get caught up in the mosh.